My name is Tori Afton. I was 22 years old when my own mother handed me a trash bag and told me to never call her again. The knock that changed everything. The rain was coming down hard that night. Not the gentle kind that makes you want to curl up with a book. No, this was the angry kind. The kind that feels personal. And maybe it was. Because on that night, the universe decided to test me in a way I never saw coming. I was sitting on my bed in the smallest bedroom of a house that never really felt like mine. My suitcase was half packed on the floor, not because I was leaving by choice, but because I had just been given an ultimatum by the one person who was supposed to protect me. Let me back up a little. My name is Tori, and for 22 years I lived in the shadow of my younger sister Chloe. Chloe was perfect, at least that's what my mom always said. Chloe got straight A's without trying. Chloe had the perfect boyfriend. Chloe was going to a top university. And me? I was the artist, the dreamer. The one who took a gap year to figure things out, as my dad used to say, before he walked out on us when I was 16. After Dad left, something broke in my mom. She became cold, distant, but not with Chloe. Never with Chloe. With Chloe, she was warm, proud, supportive. With me, I was just there, a reminder of the husband who abandoned her. And every time I picked up a paintbrush, she would roll her eyes and say, "That's not going to pay the bills, Tori." But on that rainy night, things went from bad to catastrophic. It started with a phone call. Chloe was crying on the other end of the line. She had broken up with her boyfriend, Mark. Turns out, Mark had been cheating on her for months. I felt bad for her, I really did. But what happened next changed everything. Chloe came home sobbing, and my mom, instead of just comforting her, needed someone to blame. She stormed into my room without knocking. Her face was red, her eyes wild. "You knew, didn't you?" she screamed at me. I was confused. Knew what? About Mark, about the cheating. You knew and you didn't tell your sister. I stood up, my heart racing. "Mom, I didn't know. I barely talked to Mark. Why would I know?" But she didn't believe me. Or maybe she didn't want to believe me. She needed a villain, and I was the easiest target. Chloe had told her that I was friends with the girl Mark cheated with, which was a lie. A complete and total lie. But Chloe was the golden child. Her word was law in that house. "You've always been jealous of her," my mom said, her voice dripping with venom. "Ever since you were little. You couldn't stand that she was better than you."
I felt my chest tighten. That's not true. I love Chloe. Then why did you help that girl destroy her relationship? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't help anyone. Chloe is lying. That was the wrong thing to say. Never accuse the golden child of lying in front of my mother. Mom grabbed my arm, hard. She pulled me out of my room and down the hallway. Chloe was standing at the top of the stairs, wiping her tears. But I saw something in her eyes. A tiny, almost invisible smile. She wanted this. She wanted me gone. Mom dragged me to the kitchen, opened the drawer where we kept the trash bags, and pulled one out. She shoved it into my chest. "Pack your things," she said. "I want you out of this house by midnight." I thought she was joking. "Mom, it's pouring rain. Where am I supposed to go?" She looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was dirt on her shoe. "I don't care. Go to a shelter. Go to a friend's house. I don't care. But you are not going to poison this family anymore." I looked past her at Chloe, my sister, the girl I used to braid hair with, the girl I protected from bullies in middle school. She just stood there, arms crossed, looking satisfied. "Chloe, tell her the truth," I begged. Chloe shook her head. "Just go, Tori. You've caused enough damage." That was the moment I realized I had no family left. My dad was gone, my mom hated me, and my sister had just stabbed me in the back to cover up her own embarrassment. So I packed. Not much. Some clothes, my art supplies, my laptop. I didn't take anything that reminded me of them. I didn't want those memories. At 11:47 p.m., I walked out the front door with a trash bag in one hand and a backpack on my shoulder. The rain soaked through my hoodie in seconds. I didn't look back. I refused to give them the satisfaction. But inside, I was dying. How could a mother do that? How could a sister lie like that? I walked 3 miles to the nearest bus station, shivering and crying. I had $43 in my pocket. No job, no home, and nobody to call. I sat on a bench at the bus station.
Sleeping at a bus station is not something I would wish on anyone. The lights are too bright, the benches are designed to be uncomfortable on purpose, and every sound makes you jump because you never know who is walking by. But I had no choice. I had to save my money. The first morning, I woke up with a stiff neck and a heavy heart. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts, not even a "Are you alive?" from my mom. That hurt more than the cold. It hurt more than the hunger, because it confirmed what I had always suspected. To them, I was already a ghost. I needed a plan. I couldn't just wander around forever, so I went to the public library. If you ever find yourself with nothing, go to the library. It's warm, it's free, and it has computers. I logged into my email and saw a message that made my stomach drop. It was from the art gallery downtown, a gallery I had submitted my portfolio to months ago, back when I still had hope. They wanted to meet with me. They said my work was provocative and raw, and they wanted to discuss a possible exhibition. A month ago, this would have been the best day of my life. But now, I had no address, no clean clothes, no way to present myself as a serious artist. I almost deleted the email. Almost. But then I remembered the promise I made in the rain. They will regret this. I replied to the email. I said yes. I scheduled the meeting for 3 days from then. That gave me 72 hours to figure out how to look like a professional when I felt like a homeless failure. First thing I did was find a shelter. Not the kind you see in movies. It was a women's shelter run by a church. It was clean, but it was crowded. I had to share a room with 4 other women. None of them asked why I was there. That was the rule. You don't ask. You just survive. The woman in charge was named Martha. She had kind eyes and rough hands. She gave me a cot, a blanket, and a warm meal. Soup and bread. It was the best thing I had ever tasted. "You got somewhere to go?" Martha asked me. "Not yet," I said, "but I will." She smiled. "That's the right attitude. Most people who come here, they've given up. But you still have fight in you." I didn't tell her about the art gallery. I didn't tell her about my family. I just thanked her and went to sleep. The next day, I needed money. I couldn't show up to an art gallery in a wet hoodie and dirty jeans, so I went to a temp agency, a temporary work agency. They sent me to clean offices at night. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid cash at the end of each shift. $75 for 8 hours of scrubbing toilets and emptying trash cans. I worked that night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then I went back to the shelter, slept for 4 hours, and went to a thrift store. I bought a black dress for $8, a pair of heels for $5, and a blazer for $3. Total cost, $16. I found a public restroom at a gas station and changed. I washed my face, I brushed my hair with my fingers, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't see a homeless girl. I saw someone who was about to change her entire life. The art gallery was called the Velvet Frame. It was in the nice part of town, the part my family never visited because it was too fancy. I walked in like I owned the place, chin up, shoulders back. No one could know that I had slept on a bus bench 2 nights ago. The owner was a woman named Helena. She was in her 50s, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She looked me up and down and said, "You're younger than I expected." "I'm full of surprises," I said. She laughed. She showed me to her office, and we sat down. She pulled up my portfolio on her computer. My paintings, my digital art, my sketches. She stared at the screen for a long time without saying anything. Finally, she said, "This is good, really good. But good isn't enough. I need exceptional. I need art that makes people feel something. Can you do that?" I thought about my mom throwing me out. I thought about Chloe's smirk. I thought about the rain and the cold and the hunger. "Yes," I said, "I can do that." Helena leaned back in her chair. "I want to give you a chance, a small exhibition, 6 pieces, in 2 months. If you sell, we split the commission. If you don't, well, don't waste my time." I wanted to cry. I wanted to hug her, but I kept my composure. I shook her hand and said, "You won't regret this." But as I walked out of that gallery, my heart was pounding. 2 months, 6 paintings, no money, no studio, no supplies, and a secret that no one could know. I was homeless. How was I going to paint 6 masterpieces when I didn't even have a roof over my head? That night, I sat on my cot at the shelter and stared at the ceiling. The other women were asleep. I could hear someone crying in the corner. Another woman was coughing. The smell of cheap soap and desperation hung in the air. I pulled out my sketchbook and started to draw. Not a painting, a plan, a blueprint for my revenge. Not revenge on my family in the way you might think. I wasn't going to hurt them. I wasn't going to ruin them. I was going to become so successful that their betrayal would become the best thing that ever happened to me. But first, I needed to survive the next 60 days.
For the next 3 weeks, I lived 2 completely different lives. By day, I was Tori, the artist. I went to the library to research art techniques. I visited galleries to study what sold and what didn't. I posted on social media, building a following 1 post at a time. I told everyone I was between apartments and taking a creative retreat. No one asked too many questions. People see what they want to see. By night, I was a ghost. I cleaned offices, I walked dogs, I babysat for families who paid cash. I did anything and everything to save money. Every dollar went into a shoebox under my cot. Paint, canvases, frames, marketing. I calculated the costs over and over again. I needed at least $2,000 to make this exhibition happen. I had $347 after 3 weeks. At that rate, I would never make it. One night, I was cleaning an office building on the 15th floor. It was 2 a.m. Everyone was gone. The city lights sparkled below me. And I just stopped. I put down my mop and I looked out the window. For a moment, I let myself feel everything. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the fear. What if I failed? What if the exhibition was a disaster? What if I ended up on the streets forever? I sank to my knees right there in that empty office and I cried. Not quiet tears, loud, ugly, painful sobs. I cried for my dad who left. I cried for my mom who chose Chloe over me. I cried for the sister I used to love. And I cried for myself because I was so tired of pretending to be strong. Then something happened. A noise. Footsteps. Someone else was in the office. I wiped my face quickly and stood up. A security guard was walking toward me. He was an older man, maybe 60, with a kind face and a slight limp. "You all right, miss?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said, my voice shaking. "Just long night." He looked at my mop, then he looked at my face. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a granola bar. He handed it to me. "My daughter went through a rough patch a few years ago," he said. "She didn't like to talk about it either, but she got through it. You will too." I took the granola bar. "Thank you." He nodded and walked away. I never saw him again, but that granola bar and those few words gave me more strength than any motivational speech ever could. Because someone saw me. Not Tori the artist, not Tori the homeless girl, just Tori. And he believed in me. I finished my shift that night with a new determination. I couldn't control my family. I couldn't control my circumstances, but I could control my effort. And I decided right then that I would outwork everyone. I started waking up at 4 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. I used the extra 2 hours to paint in the shelter's basement. The light was terrible. The smell was worse. But I painted every single day. I painted the rain. I painted the bus station. I painted my mother's angry face and my sister's cold smile. I painted my pain, my anger, my hope. And slowly, something magical happened. My art got better. Not just technically, emotionally. People who saw my sketches in the library would stop and stare. They would ask if I was okay. They would say, "This makes me feel something." That's when I realized what Helena meant. Good art is pretty. Great art is honest. And I had never been more honest in my entire life. By the end of the 5th week, I had completed 4 paintings. They were raw, they were dark, they were beautiful, but I still needed 2 more, and I still needed money for frames and marketing. Then, out of nowhere, an opportunity appeared. I was scrolling on my phone at the shelter, using the free Wi-Fi, when I saw a post. A local coffee shop was looking for an artist to paint a mural on their wall. They would pay $500 and provide all the supplies. The catch?
The mural had to be finished in 1 weekend. $500. That was a third of what I needed. I applied immediately. I sent them my portfolio, and I prayed. 2 days later, they called me. I got the job. That weekend, I painted for 16 hours straight. I barely ate, I barely slept. My hands were stained with paint. My back ached. But when I stepped back on Sunday night and looked at what I had created, I cried. Not from sadness, from pride. It was a mural of a phoenix rising from ashes, because that's what I was doing, rising. The coffee shop owner loved it. She paid me $600 instead of $5. She said I earned it, and she told everyone who walked in about the amazing young artist who painted the wall. That Monday, I bought my frames. I bought professional lighting for the exhibition. I bought business cards that said Tori Afton Artist, with a phone number that went to a burner phone I bought for $20. I was ready. Almost. But there was one thing I hadn't prepared for. The thing I feared the most. What if my family found out? What if they showed up at the exhibition? What if my mom tried to take credit for my success? Or worse, what if she tried to destroy it? I pushed those thoughts away. I couldn't afford fear. Not now. Not when I was so close.
The exhibition was in 3 days. I had 6 paintings. They were dry, framed, and ready to hang. I had invited everyone I knew. Old classmates, teachers, the coffee shop owner, the security guard from the office building, though I never got his name. I even invited Martha from the shelter. But there was one person I didn't invite. One person I was terrified to see. My mother. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 2 months. No calls, no texts, no social media contact. I had blocked her number after the first week, when she sent me a message that said, "When you're ready to apologize, you can come home." Apologize? For something I didn't do? That was when I knew there was no going back. Even if I succeeded, even if I became famous, she would never see me as anything other than the problem, the scapegoat, the daughter who wasn't good enough. But on the night before the exhibition, something unexpected happened. I got a text from an unknown number. It was Chloe. "Hey, Tori, Mom wants you to come to dinner tomorrow. She says she's willing to forgive you if you admit what you did." I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking. Forgive me? Admit what I did? I didn't do anything. And yet, a part of me wanted to go. A part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had changed, that they missed me, that they wanted to make things right. I typed out a response. Then I deleted it. I typed another, deleted it again. Finally, I wrote, "I didn't do anything wrong, Chloe. You know that. I'm not coming to dinner, and I don't need your forgiveness." She replied almost instantly, "Fine, but don't come crying to us when you fail. Mom said you're probably living on the streets anyway. Pathetic." That text broke something inside me, but it also freed something, because in that moment, I stopped wanting their approval. I stopped hoping they would love me. I accepted the truth. They were never going to change, and I didn't need them to. I put my phone away and looked at my paintings. 6 windows into my soul. 6 stories of pain, betrayal, and survival. Tomorrow, the world would see them. And maybe, just maybe, the world would understand. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat in the shelter basement, surrounded by my art, and I whispered a prayer. Not to God, necessarily. I wasn't sure what I believed anymore. But I whispered to the universe, or to fate, or to whoever was listening. Please, just let one person see me. Just one. That's all I need. The next morning, I put on my thrift store dress and my $5 heels. I brushed my hair. I put on the only makeup I owned, which was an old tube of mascara I found in a donation bin. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see a homeless girl. I didn't see a victim. I saw a warrior. I walked to the velvet frame with my head held high. Helena was waiting for me at the door. She looked nervous. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. "No," I said, "but I'm doing it anyway." She smiled. That's the definition of courage. We hung the paintings, we adjusted the lights,
We set out the business cards and the price list. I priced each painting at $500. It felt like too much, but Helena insisted. "Your work is worth it," she said. "Don't sell yourself short." The doors opened at 7 p.m. For the first hour, nobody came. I stood by the window, watching the street, my heart sinking with every passing minute. Helena brought me a glass of wine. I didn't drink it. My stomach was in knots. Then, at 8:15, the coffee shop owner arrived with 5 of her friends. They looked at my paintings and gasped. Not a polite gasp, a real one. One woman started crying in front of a painting I had titled The Uninvited Guest. It was a painting of a mother's silhouette standing over a small girl, blocking out the light. "This is my childhood," the woman whispered. "How did you know?" I didn't know, but that's the power of honesty. When you tell your truth, you tell everyone's truth. By 9 p.m., the gallery was half full. By 10 p.m., it was packed. People were pointing at my paintings, whispering, taking photos. And then it happened. Someone bought one. A man in a suit pointed at the rain at midnight and wrote a check for $500. I almost fainted. $500. That was more money than I had seen in 2 months. Then another painting sold, and another. By the end of the night, 4 of my 6 paintings had been purchased. I had made $2,000, plus my commission from the gallery, plus the mural money. I had enough for a deposit on an apartment, a real apartment, with a door that locked and a bed that was mine. I was no longer homeless. Helena pulled me aside at the end of the night. Her eyes were shining. "Tori, do you know what you just did? In one night, you sold more than most new artists sell in a year. I want to represent you, full-time. I'll get you into other galleries. I'll market your work. What do you say?" I said yes. Of course I said yes. This was everything I had dreamed of. But as I walked home to the shelter that night, a strange feeling washed over me. It wasn't happiness, not entirely. It was something else, something colder. I had succeeded. I had risen from the ashes. But my family didn't know. They still thought I was a failure living on the streets. And a dark part of me, the part I tried to ignore, wanted them to know, wanted them to see what they had thrown away. That's when I made a decision, a dangerous one. I decided to invite them to my next exhibition, not out of love, out of something much more complicated, out of the need to be seen by the people who had looked away. I didn't know it then, but that decision would lead to the biggest confrontation of my life. 2 weeks later, I moved into a small studio apartment. It wasn't much. 1 room, a tiny kitchen, a bathroom with a shower that only had cold water. But it was mine. I paid for it with my own money. No one could take it away from me. I painted every day. The success of the first exhibition opened doors I didn't even know existed. Helena introduced me to collectors, critics, and other artists. My social media following grew from 200 to 5,000. People were sharing my story. Not the whole story, of course. I still didn't tell anyone about the shelter or the bus station, but they could see the pain in my art, and that was enough. One morning, I was drinking coffee in my apartment when I got an email that changed everything. A gallery in the city, a real gallery, not a small one like Helena's, wanted to feature my work. A solo exhibition, 6 weeks from now, in the heart of the downtown art district. This was huge. This was the kind of opportunity that artists wait years for, and it was happening to me, the girl who was homeless 2 months ago. I said yes immediately. Then I sat down and wrote an email to my mother. My heart was pounding as I typed. I knew it was risky. I knew it could backfire, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted her to see. I wanted Chloe to see. I wanted them to know that they didn't break me. They made me stronger. The email was simple. No anger, no accusations, just facts. Dear Mom, I know you told me not to contact you, but I wanted you to know that I have my first solo art exhibition on date at the Downtown Art Gallery. I would be honored if you and Chloe came. No pressure, no expectations, just an invitation. Love, Tori. I stared at the send button for a long time. My thumb hovered over the mouse. Then I closed my eyes and clicked. For 3 days, I heard nothing. I checked my email every hour. Nothing. I started to regret it. What was I thinking? They didn't care about me. They never did.
Why would they come to an art exhibition? On the fourth day, I got a response. It wasn't from my mom. It was from Chloe. "We'll be there, but don't embarrass us." That was it. No congratulations, no I'm proud of you, just a warning not to embarrass them. I laughed out loud, a bitter, hollow laugh. They were worried about being embarrassed? By me? The girl they threw out like garbage? That's when I decided to change my plan. Originally, I was just going to show my art and let it speak for itself. But now I wanted more. I wanted them to feel what I felt. I wanted them to stand in a room full of strangers who loved my work and realize what they had lost. So I created a new painting, a secret painting, one that I would not show to Helena or anyone else until the night of the exhibition. It was a portrait of my family, but not how they saw themselves, how I saw them. A mother with a stone heart, a sister with a forked tongue, and a father who was already a ghost. I painted it in secret, late at night, when the city was asleep. I poured every ounce of pain, every tear, every sleepless night into that canvas. When it was finished, I looked at it and started to cry, not because it was sad, because it was true. And the truth, no matter how ugly, is always beautiful. The weeks passed quickly. I painted 7 new pieces for the exhibition, plus the secret one. Helena helped me with marketing. The gallery owner did interviews with local news stations. My story started to spread. Young artist overcomes homelessness to achieve dream. That was the headline in the local paper. They didn't mention my family. They didn't know. But my family knew, and I could feel them getting closer. The night before the exhibition, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. It was my mother. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was. She said, "I saw the article. Is it true? Were you really homeless?" I took a deep breath. "Yes, Mom, I was homeless because you threw me out." There was a long pause. Then she said something I will never forget. "You should have come home. I told you to apologize. This is your fault." Not "I'm sorry." Not "I made a mistake." Just blame. Always blame. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I just said, "See you tomorrow, Mom," and hung up. That night, I didn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't because I was scared. It was because I was ready. I was no longer homeless. The night of the exhibition was everything I dreamed of and more. The gallery was packed. Critics, collectors, friends, strangers. The coffee shop owner was there. Martha from the shelter was there, wearing a nice dress she borrowed from the church. Even the security guard showed up, the one who gave me the granola bar. I hugged him so tight he laughed and said, "Easy there, I'm not that friendly." But I was watching the door, waiting. My heart pounded every time it opened. Then, at 8:30 p.m., they walked in. My mother, my sister, and to my shock, my father, the man who left us 6 years ago. He was standing next to my mom like nothing had ever happened, like he hadn't abandoned us, like I hadn't spent years wondering why I wasn't worth staying for. They looked around the gallery with confused expressions. This wasn't the cheap art show they were expecting. This was a real event. Champagne, elegant lighting, important people. My mother clutched her purse like she was afraid someone would steal it. Chloe spotted me first. She walked over, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, but her eyes were the same, cold, calculating. "Nice place," she said. "Must have cost a lot to rent. How did you afford it?" "I didn't rent it," I said. "They invited me." Chloe's smile faltered. She didn't believe me. But before she could say anything, a woman in a fur coat walked up to me and shook my hand. "Miss Afton, your work is extraordinary. I represent a collector in New York who would like to purchase 3 of your pieces. Name your price." 3 pieces in New York. This was beyond my wildest dreams. My mother heard the conversation. I saw her face change. The confusion turned to something else. Shock, disbelief. And then, slowly, a smile. Not a happy smile, a hungry smile. She saw dollar signs. She saw an opportunity. She walked over and put her hand on my arm. "Tori, honey, I'm so proud of you. I always knew you had talent." always knew? She spent years telling me my art was a waste of time. But I didn't say that. I just smiled. A fake smile. The kind you give to strangers. "Thank you, Mom," I said. "I'm glad you came." Chloe was looking at the paintings. I watched her study them. She stopped in front of one called The Lie. It was a painting of two sisters. One was crying. The other was smiling. The crying sister was holding a knife behind her back. The smiling sister had blood on her hands. Chloe's face went pale. She knew. She knew that painting was about her. She turned to me, her eyes wide. "Is this what you think of me?" I didn't answer. I just walked to the center of the room and clinked my champagne glass. The room went quiet. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "Tonight is special for me, not just because of the art, but because my family is here. My mother, my father, and my sister. They haven't seen my work before, and I have a special piece I'd like to show them, one that I painted just for this night." I walked to the back of the gallery where the secret painting was covered with a black cloth. Helena looked at me with confusion. She didn't know about this. No one did. I pulled the cloth. The room gasped. It was the family portrait, the one with the stone-hearted mother, the forked-tongued sister, and the ghost father. But I had added something. In the background, barely visible, was a small girl holding a paintbrush. The girl was crying, but she was also smiling because she was the only one in the painting who was real. My mother stared at the painting. Her face turned red, then white, then red again. "How dare you?" she whispered, but everyone heard. The room was silent. "How dare I what?" I asked. "How dare I tell the truth? You threw me out, Mom. You chose Chloe over me. You told me not to contact you. And now you're here because you think I have money? Because you think you can take credit for my success?" My father looked at the floor. He couldn't meet my eyes. Chloe was shaking. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. "No," I said. "You don't get to speak. For 22 years, I listened to you. I let you make me feel small. I let you blame me for things I didn't do, but not anymore. This night is mine. This success is mine. And you don't get to be part of it." The room was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in the champagne glasses. My mother turned and walked out. Chloe followed. My father hesitated for a moment. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in 6 years. "I'm sorry, Tori," he said. Then he left. I stood there, in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by strangers who were now staring at me with a mixture of pity and admiration. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. Had I gone too far? Had I become the villain? Then Martha from the shelter stood up and started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. And one by one, everyone in the room joined in. They weren't clapping for my art. They were clapping for my courage, for standing up to the people who hurt me. I didn't feel happy. Not exactly. But I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. The next morning, I woke up in my studio apartment. The sun was streaming through the window. For a moment, I forgot everything that had happened. Then it all came rushing back. The exhibition, the confrontation, my family walking out. I checked my phone. 47 text messages. Most were from people at the gallery congratulating me. A few were from journalists who wanted to interview me. One was from Chloe. "You ruined us. Everyone in town is talking about what you did. Mom can't show her face anywhere. I hope you're happy." I read the message 3 times. Ruined them? I didn't ruin them. They ruined themselves. They made their choices. I just refused to hide their consequences anymore. But a small part of me felt guilty. Was I wrong to confront them in public? Should I have handled it privately? I called Helena to ask her opinion. Helena laughed. "Tori, do you know how many people came up to me last night and said they wanted to buy your work because of what you said? You didn't ruin your family. You saved yourself. And sometimes saving yourself looks messy to other people." That made me feel better, but not completely. Over the next few weeks, my life changed dramatically. The story of the exhibition went viral, not because of the art, but because of the drama. Homeless artist confronts family at gallery opening was everywhere.
News stations wanted interviews, podcasts wanted my story, a publisher reached out about a book deal. I said yes to some things and no to others. I was careful. I didn't want to become famous just for the confrontation. I wanted to be known for my art, so I focused on painting. I created a new series called Reclamation. It was about taking back what was stolen from you, your dignity, your voice, your future. The series sold out in 2 days. I moved out of the studio apartment and into a real house, a small one, but it had a yard and a garden and a studio with northern light. I adopted a cat from the shelter. I named her Martha, after the woman who gave me a cot when I had nothing. I didn't talk to my family for 6 months. Then one day I got a letter, handwritten, from my mother. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was more of an explanation. She wrote about how hard it was after my father left, how she felt like she was drowning, how Chloe was easier to love because Chloe never reminded her of the man who broke her heart. She wrote that she knew she failed me. She wrote that she was sorry. But she didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask to see me. She just said, "I hope you're happy. You deserve to be." I read the letter 5 times. Then I put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to say. Some wounds are too deep for words. Some bridges are too burned to rebuild. Chloe never reached out again. I heard through mutual friends that she moved to another state. She got married. She had a baby. I hope she's happy too. I really do. But I don't need to be part of her life to wish her well. And my father? He sends me a birthday card every year. It always says the same thing. Thinking of you. Love, Dad. I keep them in a box. I don't know why. Maybe because it's nice to be thought of, even by someone who couldn't stay.
It's been 3 years since that rainy night when my mom threw me out with the trash bag. 3 years since I slept on a bus bench and wondered if my life was over. Today, I have everything I never knew I wanted. A successful career, a home that feels safe, friends who love me for who I am, not what I can give them, and a reputation as an artist who isn't afraid to tell the truth. But the most important thing I gained isn't money or fame. It's perspective. I used to think revenge meant making someone suffer the way they made me suffer. I used to think justice meant watching them fall. But I was wrong. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's creation. It's building a life so beautiful, so full, so unshakable, that the people who tried to break you become irrelevant. My mother didn't break me. She broke herself. And I didn't need to fix her. I just needed to walk away. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, here's what I want you to know. You are not what they say you are. You are not a burden. You are not a mistake. You are not too much or not enough. You are a person worthy of love and respect. And if the people who are supposed to give you that can't or won't, then you owe it to yourself to walk away. Walking away isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing you can do. I still paint every day. I still think about my family sometimes. But the pain has faded. What's left is a quiet acceptance. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a season, and that's okay. The sun doesn't stop shining just because winter comes, and you don't stop growing just because someone tries to cut you down. My name is Tori Afton. I'm 25 years old, and this is the story of how I lost everything, only to discover that everything I needed was already inside me.